Hello everyone, Mehdi for Tokyo Alpha Mine. So the clown market is back and this is 2021 all over again. So we are going to see what are the signs telling us that not everyone is going to end well in this market and what you should do about it and how not to lose money. So let's get started. The first sign of the return of the clown market, of the meme market, I don't know how to call it, is the return of retail darlings. So retail darlings are basically retail investors' favorite for stocks. And we have seen 2021 stocks like Tesla, for example. And so in 2025, we are seeing the same thing again. So starting with the most famous of all, PLTR. So we have seen incredible return for investors in PLTR, almost 20x for investors in PLTR. So actually it attracts a lot of new investors in the name and in all the names. But what is actually very reminiscent of 2021 is that we have seen in Twitter and on YouTube a lot of names pumping and like coming up in a lot of different channels. So we have, for example, the stocks like HIMS or the stocks like Hood or like OSCR that are widely discussed by a lot of investors. But that just doesn't stop here. We have stocks like ZETA, stock like ASTS, and what we are seeing is that for a lot of these stocks, like the future is always bright and there is always a lot of growth going forward. And so this shows you that when you see that all these retail stocks not only being widely discussed in YouTube or on X, but the fact that they are very volatile and you have swings intraday of plus or minus 10% on these stocks, it shows you that there is something which is not right in the stock market. So just say that this is a very telling sign that the clown market is back, but that's not it. Another sign of the return of the clown market is the return of meme stocks. So they are retail darlings, that's one thing. These are good companies in a sense that have actually good businesses and that have actually most likely a very bright future, but just a little bit overvalued. But now we have stocks like GameStop or like Krispy Kreme that are just exploding or pumping for no reason. And that's actually a very huge telling sign. And we have seen also like stocks like the quantum stocks or even the nuclear stocks, which sometimes doesn't make any sense at all. But the reality is that it's not only retail pumping the stocks, because it shows that behind the scene we have hedge funds like trying to actually squeeze the shorts on these names. And this shows that we are kind of back again in the 2021 market. But the only difference is that the interest rates are quite different. So be very careful in those names because it's very difficult to recover in these names if they are not pumping back. So another key characteristic of the clown market of 2021 that we are finding back in 2025 is the comeback of crypto. But we're not mentioning only crypto when we talk about crypto. We're not only mentioning Bitcoin, we are mentioning the whole universe of crypto. And so basically what we are seeing is that first we have started with Bitcoin, which can make a little bit of sense in the way that the Federal Reserve are still printing money and we are still seeing like the balance sheet and the dollar actually being weaker and weaker because the government cannot stop spending money. So that's one thing. But then we have seen like a lot of weird things going on outside of Bitcoin. So we have seen first the kind of treasury strategy for a lot of different companies. I think these type of things are very reminiscent of 2021 because this is a whole phenomenon that actually sounds smart, that makes sense in a certain context, but I would say this will not end very well. First, we have MicroStrategy. I think they are the precursor on this one, but we have seen a lot of copycat and doing the same thing. And by just buying Bitcoin, they are kind of pumping their own stock. And the fact that they are actually a Ponzi scheme based on shareholders buying their stock and actually giving them the money to buy Bitcoin, it shows you that we are kind of back on this type of market with a lot of liquidity, or I would even say too much liquidity. And then we have the extension of that, not only Bitcoin, but now we have Ethereum treasury companies. I don't know why it makes more sense than like Bitcoin treasury, but still, what we are seeing that more and more companies are trying to become more innovative in the way they can actually take money from investors, and meaning take money from you. And we are also seeing NFT trying to come back. We are also seeing like new altcoins coming back. And I think that also one of the key telling is I would say, the government support or the official support from, especially coming from the Trump's administration for crypto, and that they are trying to actually bring more and more retail into crypto. So this shows you that yes, like for the moment, the momentum behind crypto is very strong, but we know how it ends, and it's not going to end well for everyone because things are going to change, and crypto is not going to stay in the same favorable environment for a long time. So be careful here. I think that Bitcoin is long-term the most safe or the safest asset, definitely. And don't be caught into trying to get too much innovative in terms of crypto. And so another key telling sign that we are full 2021 again is that stocks are back at all-time highs after a V-shaped recovery and the Liberation Day. So the similarity is incredible, uncanny, I would say. And the fact that a lot of investors have kind of this fear of missing out, and especially that most institutional investors, they didn't benefit from the initial run-up after Liberation Day, and now they are trying to go back into the market. So that's why they are trying also to pump the market so they can also benefit tremendously from there. But we know how it ends once again, so we've seen how it ends in 2022. And the fact that interest rates are still very elevated at the moment, so they may or may not come back in the coming years, but definitely there will be some kind of, I would say, temporization or kind of relax in the market, meaning that we are going to see the market taking some breathing from all this increase in the last few months. And definitely we have to be careful here because we definitely are going to see a correction in the market in the coming months. I think there is nothing special or nothing disastrous about it. Is it going to be a crash? This I don't know. No, I think that nobody knows, but definitely we are going to see a correction, and this is how we have to deal with the correction in a very reasonable way, meaning that if we are in great quality companies, I don't think there is any reason to actually sell these companies. But if you are in a weak company or company that you don't really understand, I think it's going to be very difficult to actually deal with this type of rapid decrease in the market. And so now something which is actually very similar to what we have seen during 2021, but in a sense which is quite new. It's the gambling epidemic or the gambling behavior that we are seeing in the market, and it's especially led by Robinhood, but more specifically by Kalshi. So meaning that the prediction market and the prediction, I would say, crypto-related market has been on fire, and now people are kind of betting on everything. And I think it's kind of dangerous because in a sense, it's kind of addictive. And what we have seen in 2021 is that when people get addicted by trying to just gamble instead of trying to invest, it's always and very poorly. So a lot of people are going to lose money, especially in these gambling habits. And on top of that, we are seeing a lot of options play in the market. So coming from the zero DTE, so meaning like intraday volatility play, and also like on the long term. So we are seeing a lot of retail investors actually using leaps or using even like short dated options, which are very dangerous. So the market is kind of distorted with so many retail investors coming with option plays, and which means a lot of leverage within the market. And so this will translate definitely into violent move for a lot of people. And I think that here, if you're reasonable investors, you have to be careful and you have to recognize that not every option play is actually safe, and you should be investing and not gambling. I think that's the core mission of this channel, is actually to show you that you have to invest and you should not gamble, because you have to be able to make money predictably and in a very safe way, not trying to win the lottery. So I think that this really shows you that 2025 is very similar to 2021, at least for the moment, and we will see how it's going to play out, but definitely these are telling signs that you should be careful in the market. So now we have seen that all those signs are here to actually show us that we are full back in 2021 and that the clown market is back, and this means that we know how it ends. And how it's going to end is in the same way that in 2021, we are going to have a correction. A correction meaning that a lot of people are going to lose money because they are not ready. So they are going to stay too long into these stocks, too long into these very risky plays. And so that's my message for you today, is that be careful in this market. Try to be defensive, try to not be too aggressive, and definitely try to not hold the bags. Meaning that, for example, if you're in PLTR at 160, well, that's a risky proposition, because PLTR can actually come back to 100 or come back even to 60, and it will still be overvalued. And so this is here where you have to recognize that this is an environment where this type of plays are working. But if we change environment for any reason, like Jerome Powell being fired, for example, I think that this could be a catalyst, then everything is going to change. And that if you don't react quickly, and if you are not already defensive today, then you will be left holding the bags. And as a retail investor, you definitely don't want that, because it's very difficult to recover from this type of mistakes. So please be careful. I think that if you have won already, congratulations. But if you have not yet, please do not chase these stocks, and be careful in the market. Do not hold the bags. So today we have seen 5 signs that we are full back into the clown market and full back into 2021. So retail darlings, return of meme stocks, gambling behavior with 0 DT options, and prediction market, stock at all-time highs after a V-shaped recovery, and crypto is back. So this shows you that we are definitely back into a type of environment where it is very dangerous for investors. So this is a perfect time to actually remind ourselves that we should be defensive, and we should be able to grow our portfolio and our investment into a very safe and predictable way. And so that's why we have to be very careful in 2025. So if you're interested into other analysis like this one and other wisdom, then please check my other video on this channel. Please subscribe, and I see you in another one. Bye.